Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous flower granny square. So pretty, right? And is also part of the BloomScape CAL. What is the BloomScape CAL? It is a new flower granny square every month that we were joining at the end to make a gorgeous blanket. I'll link all of those details in the description box down below. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make this granny square that you can mix and match with any other granny squares that you have. A written pattern is available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I'm speaking in this video. To make the Dahlia granny square, you will need 2 colors of yarn for your flower, a dark color for the center and something lighter for your petals. You'll need a color for your leaves and also for your block for your granny square. You can use scraps of yarn, whatever you have going on. This is a 4 worsted weight yarn from Ice Yarns, its favorite. I'll link it down below if you like the same colors. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook. You will also need a pair of scissors, a needle for sewing in your ends later, and 1 stitch marker is always handy. If you are new to crochet, I'm going to walk you through each step by step. It's just basic crochet stitches, but I'll show you exactly how to do it, where to put in your hook, and how to start and finish each row. And if you crochet faster than I do, there are these timestamps where you can just jump ahead to the section you're working on. So let's get started. Starting with your dark color yarn, make a slip knot, any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and pop it onto your hook, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now into that very first stitch, right here, right on top of our chain, we're going to put in our hook and slip stitch to make a ring. We want to get ourselves situated first. So we want to have this nice little U shape underneath your hook, and you want to hold that open with your finger and thumb, and we're going to slip stitch to join, holding that center open with your finger and thumb, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we want to wrap our yarn and make 11 double crochets into the center of that ring, right where we're holding it open. Once you've done your first double crochet, you can let go because that stitch will hold it open now, and make 11 double crochets. So with our chain 3, it will count as 12 double crochets into the center of that ring. And we're going to take care going over our tail. That'll just help us sew it in quicker when we're finished. So pause the video and keep working your way along, making 11 double crochets into the center of that ring, 12 counting your chain. Now, wondering what other left-handed tutorials I have? I made a whole playlist for you. Check it out. Now count that you have your 12. So just separate those double crochets. The chain counts as your first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to join. So there is 1, 2, 3 is on that angle right at the top. We want to slip stitch with 2 strands of that chain on the top of our hook. Pop in your hook, 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook, and slip stitch to join, and chain 1. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. Looking for a fabulous crochet community? Join our Friday live chats every Friday at 5 p.m. in Nairobi. Yeah, I live in Kenya. To start round 2, you want to make sure you have your little disc or your little circle facing up. You can tell it's up because you can see these little row of V's all laying so pretty all around the edge. If it's facing down, you just kind of see a bowl of macaroni. So we want to make sure we're seeing pretty little V's. And here is our join. Here is our stitch right after the join, and here's the second stitch. We want to work into the second stitch, but for this round, we're only going to be going into the front loops. So this is front loops only for this round. So look for that second front loop after your knot, and I like to do that just in case my stitch count is off. I can always adjust it right where that knot is and no one will ever see. So right into this second front loop from your knot, just slide your hook in, loop of your yarn on your hook long enough tail to sew in with a needle later, bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join, and drop your tail. Just hold that along the back of your work and chain 1. So that counts as our chain 2, and wrap your yarn 1/2 double crochet into that same front loop, so 1/2 double. And now we're going to picot. So chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and into the third back loop from our hook. So right under our working yarn, there is 1, here's 2, here is 3, right down on top of our half double. So we're going to go right down there and make a slip stitch. So 1 slip stitch and chain 2. We need a little ladder to get back down, and slip stitch into that same stitch. 1 slip stitch. So there is our first little petal. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next front loop only, right there. So slip stitch to the next front loop, 1 slip stitch, chain 2, 1 and 2 to get our height. Wrap your yarn 1/2 double crochet into that same front loop, and picot. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn your work to the side. We want to look for that third back loop. The first one is right underneath our working yarn. And so there's 1, 2, and 3 is right here. Want to slip stitch into that back loop to finish our picot. And then chain 2 to get back down. 1 and 2. And slip stitch into the same stitch to finish that petal. So that is what we're doing for the first round. So into each of these front loops, all the way around your circle, we're going to be going into the front loop only, making 1 slip stitch, chaining 2 to get our height, wrapping our yarn, making 1/2 double crochet, doing a picot, so chain 3, and slip stitch into the third back loop from our hook, 1 slip stitch. So that finishes our picot. Chain 2 to make your ladder, and slip stitch into the same stitch or the same front loop to bring it down. Just like that. So you can pause the video and keep working your way around, going just into the front loop with a slip stitch and a chain 2 to get your height, 1/2 double crochet, a picot, a chain 2 for your ladder to get back down, and slip stitch into the same stitch to finish that petal. Each one of these front loops gets a cute little petal, and I'll meet you when we get closer to where we started.
If you'd like to check out my work or what I might be working on, check out my weekly podcast.
When you get back closer to where you started, just count how many petals you have. It doesn't totally matter, no one's really going to see, but in a perfect world we want 12. I have 10, so I have to do 2 more petals anywhere around that join. So I can just pick where I want to make a petal. So this will be a petal for sure, because I remember we left that 1 stitch after the join. So I'm going to do one right here. This little front loop is sitting a little lower than the rest, right after the join. So pick 2 spots. We want to not go anywhere near our back loops. We want to make sure we're just working on the front. So I'm going to pick this spot here and this spot here. Those are going to be my last 2 petals into those front loops. So just keep an eye on where they are and do your last couple petals. So those are the petals done for the first round. Now we're just going to slip stitch into the very same spot that we made our first petal. We just want to make sure it's a complete circle. So into that first front loop, just 1 slip stitch to join. Just like that, and chain 1. So now flip your work forward, and we want to look for our back loop right where our slip stitch is. You want to go in right here and make another slip stitch just to bring it down to the back loops. So slide that onto your hook and just do one slip stitch and chain one. Now into the very same stitch right here, that same back loop, we're going to make one single crochet, and we can pop our stitch marker into that stitch, the one we just made right there. Let's pop your stitch marker in, and then we'll know when we get back to where we started. Keep your tails out of the way, and now fold all your petals down. We want to be looking for these back loops. So now we're going to be working into these back loops. So into the next back loop. So slide that next back loop onto your hook and 2 single crochets into the same back loop. And into the next back loop, just these little guys laying down here, 1 single crochet. And into the next back loop, right there, 2 single crochets. So we're doing a circle increase now, or a single crochet increase round into the back loops. So the next back loop is going to get 1 single crochet, and the one after that is going to get 2. There's 2. So when we're working around, we can, in your head, you can be 1, and then increase. Increase is 2. There's our increase. Just keep folding the new petals down as they come in front of you as you work your way around. So 1 and increase. Increase means 2 single crochets into the same stitch. And just keep working your way around. 1 into our join and 1 way over here. So we should end on an increase, and that means we should have 18 single crochets. If you want to count your stitches, just count these little V's going all the way around your ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the way around, you should have 18, including the one with our stitch marker. And now we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet where our stitch marker is to join. So pop your hook in and slip stitch to join. And that finishes round 3. To start round 4, again we're going to be working into our front loops to make more petals. So we're going to be working right into these front loops all the way around our work. So start with a chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Wrap your yarn into the front loop right where you are, this little front loop right there. We're going to do a double crochet. So just into the front loop, 1 double crochet, picot, 1, 2, 3 chains, and slip stitch into that back loop to picot. And our ladder this time is chain 3 to get back down. So slip stitch into the same stitch to pin that down. So that is our petal for this round. Each front loop is going to get a slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, wrap your yarn, 1 double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, picot into the 3rd chain from your hook. Just slide that back loop onto your hook and picot, and chain 3 to get back down. 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the same back loop to pin that down right there. I'm going to do that into every front loop all the way around. So slip stitch Chain 3 to get your height. 1 double crochet into the same front loop. Chain 3 to start your picot. Slip stitch into the 3rd chain from your hook to finish your picot. And chain 3 to build your ladder to get down, and then slip stitch to finish it off into the very same stitch, just like that. So you can pause the video and keep working your way along, doing a slip stitch into the next front loop, chaining 3, wrap your yarn, 1 double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into that back loop to make your picot, and chain 3 again, and slip stitch into the very same front loop to finish. Just like that. Just pinch these front petals down so you can see where you're going to be working next, and work all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back closer to where we started. When you get back to where you started, we're just going to slip stitch just somewhere down in the bottom of that chain to join, just to finish the round. So slip stitch to join, chain 1, flip your work forward. We want to be looking for a back loop right there, and we're going to put our hook in just to this back loop right down there, and slip stitch. Chain 1, and into that same back loop right there way down on the side, we want to do a single crochet just so we can have a real stitch to slip stitch to. So there's our single crochet. Pop your stitch marker into that stitch. Just like that. And now we're going to do a row of single crochet increases into these back loops. So that's our 1 single crochet. There is 2 single crochets, and then an increase. So into this 3rd back loop, an increase. So that is 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Just keep folding those petals down to hold them out of your way. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and into the 3rd, our increase. So 2 single crochets into the 3rd stitch. So in your head, you can just count 1, 2, and increase. Increase is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So pause the video and just keep working along, doing 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, till you get back to your first stitch marker. So I finished on an increase, so I'm just going to count and make sure. I should have 24 single crochets for this round. So remember, you can just count them by counting these pretty little V's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the way around, you want 24. Now right where our stitch marker is, that's our first single crochet. That's where we want to slip stitch. So slip stitch to join. And that finishes round 5.
Subscribe! It's cool, right? Crocheted!
To start round 6, you can pop that stitch marker out and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're doing petals into these front loops only. So now go into this front loop right beside your chain Wrap your yarn twice. We're going to do treble crochets for this round. So into front loop only, 1 treble crochet. Same picot, so chain 3 and picot. Slip stitch right into that back loop. Now our ladders are chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and slip stitch right back down into that same stitch to finish off. There. So that's our petal for this round. Slip stitch right over into the next front loop, right there. So slip stitch to start. Chain 4 to build your ladder. Treble crochet. Picot, 1, 2, 3, and a slip stitch. And build your ladder down, chain 4, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the same stitch to finish your petal. So you can pause the video and keep working into each front loop, making 1 slip stitch, chain 4, 1 treble crochet, so that's wrapping your yarn twice, a picot, so that's chain 3 and a slip stitch, and chain 4 to build your ladder down, and slip stitch into the same stitch to finish. 1 slip stitch. So now you can pause the video and keep working along, doing your treble crochet petals all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back closer to where we started. When you get back to that first petal, just slip stitch down into the bottom of it, just somewhere over here, if you can see, just somewhere underneath that petal, just to finish the round and tighten it up a little bit. Slip stitch and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And now flip your work over. We want to look for that back loop somewhere in the same area as our slip stitch. Doesn't totally matter. We just want to find one of those back loops and slip stitch to bring our yarn down there. Chain 1 and 1 single crochet into that same back loop. Now for this round, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets and then an increase. So we just did 1. So into the next back loop, there's 2, 3, and increase. Flower's pretty big now, isn't it? a lot of petals. So increase. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, and increase. Increases are 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and increase into the next. So that is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. You can pop a stitch marker into that first single crochet. So now pause the video and keep working your way around, doing a 1, 2, 3 increase, 1, 2, 3 increase, all the way around until you get back to where we started. When you get back to where your stitch marker is, just count to make sure you have 30 single crochets. And slip stitch into the same stitch as your stitch marker. And chain 1. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And that finishes round 7. To start round 8, get your leaf color. Just pop your hook into that stitch a couple stitches after our join. Loop of your new yarn on your hook. Bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, just holding it along the back of your work. And chain 1 and 1 single crochet into the same stitch. Grab your stitch marker and just to mark that first single crochet. Now for this round, we're just going to be working into the whole stitch, so it's a lot quicker now. We've done the fiddly bit, so we're just going to go into both strands of that V to make our circle. So that is 1 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase. So increase is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Just like that. Just keep those petals out of your way a little bit. And the repeat is 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase. So you can pause the video and keep working along, doing 1, 2, 3, 4, increase all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to our stitch marker. When you get back to where we started, you should end on an increase, but it doesn't totally matter. Just go back and make sure you have 36 single crochets. So now we're going to slip stitch to where our stitch marker is, 1 slip stitch. And that finishes round 8. You can pop that stitch marker out. To start round 9, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and into that same stitch, just right there, 1 more double crochet, chain 2, skip 2. So we're going to skip 1 and 2. We're going to go into the 3rd stitch right over there. So 1 single crochet into the 3rd stitch, chain 2, skip 2. So skip 1 and 2, and we're going to make 1 single crochet into the 3rd right over there. So 1 single crochet into the 3rd stitch, chain 2, skip 2 again, skip 2 stitches, and into the 3rd stitch we're going to make a corner. Corners are 2 double crochets, so 1 and 2, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into the same stitch 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 again, so skip 2 of those cute little V's, go into the 3rd, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 2, so skip 2 stitches, and into the 3rd, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and into the 3rd, a corner. So corners are 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So there's 1 and 2. Chain 2, skip 2 into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 2 into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and into the third, a corner. So corners are 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets all into the same stitch. So there's my first 2 double crochets, chain 2, and into the same space, the same stitch, 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2. Chain 2, skip 2 into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 2 into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and now we're right back into that corner space where we started. So just look where those double crochets are coming from, like this stitch right here, this stitch right there. You want to go into the same spot. So you can kind of hold that open and make your 2 double crochets to finish off that corner. 1 and 2. And now we're finished with this color. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and now we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to join. I'm going to slip stitch right there. So pop your hook in, 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, and slip stitch. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. And that finishes round 9.
Subscribe! I know a lot of you haven't, so just go ahead and hit that button under this video right now. Thank you!
To start round 10, pick a different corner other than your join, and just pop your hook into that corner space. Loop of your new yarn, the yarn you're using for your block. Loop on your hook, bring it through, and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail and chain 2. 1 and 2. Into that same corner space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Into the next space right here, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we have our corner space. I'm just going to bring that tail forward so I can work over it a bit. And corners are 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2. You can slide your stitches back a little bit to give yourself some more room. And 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. So 1, 2, and 3. Into each of the 3 spaces along the side, 3 double crochets. So you can pause the video and put your 3 double crochets into each of these spaces. When you get back to where we started, 3 double crochets into that corner space. 1, 2, and 3. Now there's 2 ways of joining in this corner. One is if we're going to keep going with the same yarn, and one is if we are finished. So if you're going to keep going, chain 1 and make 1 single crochet to join right into the top of the chain 3, right there. So you just go in and make 1 single crochet to join. Now hold that corner open with your finger and thumb, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. Turning your work helps your granny square not get slowly twisted, and especially after you join them up, it's quite noticeable. If you turn your work, that doesn't happen. So 2 double crochets into the same space, 1 and 2, and then just pop a stitch marker right into that corner so you know where you joined, or else it can kind of look like you just keep going. You can kind of lose that corner. And then just keep going, 3 double crochets into each space along the sides, and corners of 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets. The other way to join is if you are finished with this color, then chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 to join. So 1 slip stitch to join when we're finished with the color, 1 slip stitch, and a chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Sew in your tails and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. What a gorgeous flower. If you want to join in that crochet along, click that playlist right there. And if you want to see more of these gorgeous flowers, check out this podcast.